Good afternoon everybody and welcome to SLTI's second lunchtime livecast. Today we're going to be talking about apprenticeships, what they are, why do them and how they work. We're going to get the perspective from the institution, from the employer and from the apprentice themselves, and we've got three guests here to talk to us today about that. It's a good day to do this because Solent has just been awarded Good from Ofsted on this specific provision, which is fantastic. We're very pleased with that. So we've got Good for health and social care and our business management apprenticeship provision, which is a great base to start from. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our guests. We have Gillian Saeva, who is the Head of Business, Finance and Accounting. We have Steve from the New Forest District Council, who is a line manager who'll be here today. And Leslie, one of your employees at the council.
Hello.
Which is great.
Hello.
So thank you ever so much for coming along. I'm going to start off with Gillian because you are the training provider. So why is Solent doing higher and degree apprenticeships? Why have we got involved in this?
Okay, we have got involved over the last span of probably 2-3 years. It's been a period of momentous change within the education and vocational training sector within England. What we had was the Doug Richard review in 2012, which highlighted the great need for change within the skill set within the country. It was identified that the country has been lagging behind its other G7 competitors in terms of productivity. And a lot of that was down to a lack of skills being in the right place. So they looked at how they could address this, and of course one of the recommendations that came out of the report was to actually reform and realign the role of apprenticeships within the country. So traditionally apprenticeships did sit on apprenticeship frameworks. That has been replaced by apprenticeship standards, and in the developing of these apprenticeship standards, this set about developing trailblazer groups, and these trailblazer groups incorporated employers. So what happened was that employers wanted their voice heard in being able to contribute and actually be part of this key education and training provision. Putting employers in the driving seat was very much what came out of that, and the employers have played a key part in actually developing these new apprenticeship standards. So the Institute for Apprenticeships has been set up, and of course alongside that we've had a lot of re-regulation within the education sector. We no longer have HEFCE, we now have the Office for Students. All of this plays a key part moving forward in how obviously this education is going to be addressed. So Solent University has had a very strong commitment in its lifetime to obviously working with the business community, working with employers and actually delivering high quality courses that are aligned to actually employers' needs. We've got an excellent output in terms of students and graduates going into professional employment. So we were in a very good place to be able to deliver against this. So Solent University was actually part of the Trailblazer group for the Chartered Manager Degree Apprenticeship Programme. So it was only right that we of course should take up that mantle and actually run then with implementing the higher and degree apprenticeship programmes.
So Solent's been there right from the start essentially of this new apprenticeship provision. That's
yes,
fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And of course what that has done is of course help us develop a strong standing place, not only within the city but within the wider Hampshire region, but also along the south coast, where we have been very fortunate to become the preferred provider for a lot of our public sector organisations that have obviously tendered for this provision, where of course as part of this whole apprenticeship agenda, what the government has set up from 2017 in April, those organisations that had a payable more than 3 million per annum were then levied at the cost of 0.5%, and that money is taken at source and put into a digital account managed by HMRC. And this digital account is then what obviously these larger organisations then use to process the funding, so spending their apprenticeship levy.
Okay.
So what we have seen is perhaps all sectors taking some time to understand and really work out how the apprenticeship levy can work for them. I'm pleased to say that we have a reducing amount of organisations that are actually seeing it as a tax and just trying to write it off.
Yeah,
And particularly with the increased need of skills and organisations actually rethinking their learning and development strategies around how we can upskill existing people within their organisation, but also how we can rethink how we bring new talent into organisations and actually using that apprenticeship levy to do so.
Yeah.
So with that, what we have seen is quite a lot of sectors actually adjusting their graduate programmes initially by 40%, so having 60% graduate programme, 40% higher degree apprenticeship intake. What we are seeing is some of the more established organisations starting to adjust that dial even further, and I would predict we will see that perhaps even going much further where they're wanting to obviously make use of that apprenticeship levy. Certainly in the first instance we are seeing more confidence in using that apprenticeship levy to actually build capability into the organisation with the existing staff that we have.
Absolutely.
So this is where Solent is probably doing the most initial part of their apprenticeship business, is where the organisations want to think first, okay, look at these great people we have in our organisations, how can we upskill them, how can we reskill them, but most importantly, how can we retain these great people that we have and increase the productivity of our organisation.
Yeah. Well, that seems like a really good place to bring in you, Steve. So you are at the New Forest District Council. What is it that you do at the council? What's your
Well, I'm a service manager, so my service is building and coastal services. So within that service area, there's actually 4 teams that I've managed. So I have a coastal protection team, a coastal monitoring team, which are actually based at the Oceanography Centre here in Southampton, the building control team, and then the civic buildings and facilities team, which is a team that Leslie sits under.
All right, so what made the council, or maybe you, I don't know, decide that this would be the Leadership and Management Apprenticeship levy was a good investment, a good thing to get involved in?
I think there's been, over recent years, we haven't really invested internally. So we've had apprenticeships where we've recruited, or we've had apprenticeship people coming in from externally and doing external courses on maybe planning and finance and accountancy. But what we haven't done is invested in the people and sort of taken those opportunities of looking at current staff, those who are already obviously working with us, committed, and looking at the opportunities of how they can be promoted into future management positions, or even existing managers at the moment who have been promoted up through the line, but how their skills can be improved for the work they've taken on. So there's a decision taken to use the levy over, we're actually using it on apprenticeship levels between level 3 and level 6. We've got people on each of those levels, but it's that sort of desire to try and work with the staff and experience we've got, and those staff who have got the skills, they know the council, they know how it works, they know what the aims are, the visions of the council, and to try and encourage them and show that there will be investment, within our existing staff to try and promote them and develop their own skills as well.
It goes a long way, doesn't it, psychologically, just to know that your employer is willing to put some money into your own development.
Yeah, and I think
it's really important.
That is a good motivator to staff. So they can see the council is actually willing to invest, not only financially but through time as well, because there's quite a commitment on this course for the time. And I think the staff can see there's that sort of willing to do that, and the council will support and provide the backup for people to do that, then staff are much more engaged. And then we did have, when the applications went through, there was a big number that came in of people who wanted to actually do the course. So I think that demonstrated how valuable it would have been as well.
That's a really good sign.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you're after. So usually training, you would think of it as on-the-job training. A lot of training is on the job, whereas this is very much off-the-job training. So how do you as a manager manage to have part of your workforce out of the office for 20% of their time?
Yeah, I mean, that has been a big commitment to, with Leslie doing the course and others who are doing it as well. But I think the council's sort of recognised that to develop people, we've got to allow that. So it's sort of committed that time element. The difficulty is the workload doesn't really reduce, so it does put more pressure on apprenticeships and the students who are doing the course, because effectively the 5-day working week becomes crammed into a 4-day working week. But what is good is that we sort of recognise that and acknowledge that, so try and balance workloads, to try and help that and make it work. I mean, the other great thing that I'm finding is on the apprenticeship course, there is a really good link to current work that's going on and future work that's coming in. So, you can get people coming in, having done a day here, education, coming back to work and actually seeing a bit more how certain elements of that course link back in, whether it's through internal learning and development management, looking at corporate aims, project management, which is another unit being done at the moment. So the real benefit is there's a link straight away really with work, and the coursework that's being done can relate back to work and help perhaps improve systems and processes as well.
Yeah, that's something, just really adding to what Steve has said from the employer's perspective. This is what really differentiates higher degree apprenticeships ships from just a standard degree course or foundation degree course that an organisation might say send one of their employees on. So with putting the employer in the driving seat of what's happening, higher degree apprenticeships has this very special arrangement which is known as this tripartite relationship. So with that, it's the training provider, the employer and the apprentice, and everyone works together on this. And what Steve has highlighted, where New Forest District Council have committed to putting a range of their staff on what the example we have here today being the Level 5 Operations and Departmental Manager apprenticeship that's currently run as a day release on a Wednesday. So when we work at this in terms of monitoring this 20% off the job training, which forms part of how the apprenticeship is then run and managed, it's where the learning there may well be learning happening in university today and in the classroom. What Steve has quite rightly highlighted is that it's linked back into what the apprentice is then doing in the workplace, and the assessments are all work-based assessments, and the employer of course has their input into that. And I think the real crowning element of this tripartite arrangement is of course the endpoint assessment. So the apprenticeship taught programme obviously happens over a span of time, and the apprentice has to collate a large portfolio of evidence, gathering against the knowledge but also the skills and behaviours that sit against the apprenticeship standard. And at the end, the ultimate viva of that, as it were, is the endpoint assessment. And this endpoint assessment is a new thing. It wasn't part of framework. So this endpoint assessment is where you have a separate endpoint assessment organisation. You have the education provider, and then you have the employer, and they form part of the panel who will then assess the apprentice on their knowledge, their skills and behaviours against the apprenticeship standards. So one might argue that an apprentice graduating out of an apprenticeship programme, it probably has a lot more rigour to it than what just a standard qualification would actually have.
Sounds
to
like it.
So what's happening here with the programme that we as a training provider are offering, against the level 5 operations departmental manager as a university, we have got probably the benefit over and above private providers, where of course we can award our own qualifications. So what we have quite cleverly done is actually built in a lot of added value for both the employer and the apprentice. So the apprentices on this programme are not only going to get the level 5 apprenticeship qualification, they also will get a foundation degree in business management and operations. They also will get a chartered management diploma, level 5 in management and leadership. What we've done, we've dual accredited the foundation degree with this. And of course, along with that, that means they've got professional body membership from day one. We also have the endpoint assessment organisation actually as the CMI. So as part of that, we're working towards the end goal. So we've began with that end goal in mind. So there's access to a very wide range of high quality learning resources on the Management Direct system. That was obviously part of the CMI offering. But also it's just the connection to that professional body from where to go sets the apprentice up on that very high calibre journey from obviously the beginning. And of course with us working with the CMI, we've got the guiding hand, as it were, from the endpoint assessment organisation in guiding us as the training provider from the outset as well. So it sort of leaves everyone in a much more confident position to be able to deliver on that end goal.
Absolutely. You probably don't want to think about your endpoint assessment just yet. So,
No.
we bring you in, Leslie. So what is it that you do at the council? What's your role?
I'm a building surveyor.
Okay.
So I look after the civic buildings to make sure they stay up and all
That sounds like a really
all the
important job.
services are carried out inside. So my qualifications I have already are very technical. So this is completely different.
What
I'm
made
doing
you
here.
want to do it in the first place? What attracted you to it?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I'd applied a couple of times for a promotion and I was unsuccessful on both occasions. The reason being I had no management experience.
Ah, okay.
And so it kind of like thought, oh, and then I saw the email that come around. I thought, oh, that sounds interesting. So I actually had to put like a letter in saying why I wanted to do it, and I was one of the lucky ones. And I think, as Steve said, there was a lot of people that applied.
Fantastic.
And so it's been really good because one of our projects that we're doing, you know, I have to get permission off Steve first almost, you know, I'm thinking about doing this because they're work-based. I can't just go off and make something up or just sort of like fudge it a bit, if you like. You know, it's actually something. So for our project that comes into the endpoint assessment, we discussed it, and part of the department I work in is facilities, and so we deal with all the facilities, soft and hard services. So we've gone, actually that could probably do with having a proper review, what's going right, what's not going right, and how can we do it. So it's actually going to be my management project, which will be a very real project because it will be taken up in the workplace as well. So
Fantastic. So something that you maybe needed to do at work anyway but might not have had the time, this almost gives you that opportunity in a way to get that piece of work done.
And sort of like just makes you think about what work you're doing already in a different way.
And how are you finding it learning in a university environment compared to your previous training experience?
It's very different. I feel very old being here, I have to say, but it's really good. I like the fact that we're on day release, so you're here for one day a week and we're here to learn, and it's almost quite upsetting or annoying if the teacher cuts the lesson short or things, because you go, no, I'm here, I want to learn, you know, and you want to get as much knowledge. And like going to the library, that's wonderful to be able to go and sit in that. And I often will come down on a weekend, or if I've got a day off from work, and actually go and sit in the library and do work, because I find I can do quite a lot in there. So much different to doing like in-house training, which I've done sort of like, that's the last thing I've done in the last 10 years, for example. So really good.
That sounds really positive. All right. So are you noticing already? You started in September, October?
January.
Oh,
we're on our second.
Oh, you're in your second year.
Yeah.
Sorry. So
that's okay.
You've had time then to notice any impact on your knowledge, on your practice?
Yes.
is it?
Definitely. Before I started on the course, because I do a technical role, I think that's all I ever really thought about, and I never really thought about the ways of the council and how they worked, why they work, what they want to achieve and things. So since I've started doing this course, the amount of things I've learned and then gone back to the office, and even somebody will say something in conversation, or there's a meeting I'll go to or something, and I'm thinking, oh, I've learned about that, oh, I understand what that means now, whereas in the past I might have just gone almost like that, but now it's like, actually I know what I mean now, and that gives me the emphasis to carry on and learn more, and it's really, I found it's really helping at work, and I hope that things are on that. I just find it fascinating.
Well, yeah.
And it was so difficult to start with, and I don't think I had very much confidence at all, because I didn't know anything. So I was sat in the class and somebody may be going, oh, stay cold, so I'm going, oh, what's that? Whereas, you know, I'm thinking, they talk about the roof on, I'd be fine. And so over time, as these things are coming up, and it's becoming, it's comfort now. I understand what's being talked about, so I can understand where I'm going, and I enjoy looking, you know, further into what I'm doing, and then trying to expand for the assessments and things, and take it outside of, it's not purely just to get a qualification at the end, it is actually to enlarge my learning and improve, you know, hopefully.
Well, it sounds like it's having a big personal impact on you as well.
Yeah.
If you're feeling more confident now, and I don't know, it sounds like it's opening doors for you.
Yes, I think it has as well. It's, I think you get in a rut, don't you, sometimes, and you just think, oh, I'm doing my job, and it's sort of like made me think a bit more about what I'm doing and what I could be doing and how I could be doing things better, and I can just, you know, it's almost like somebody's written this course as I'm learning, because I'll do something at work and then they'll teach me, and you know, and you're thinking, oh, this is really good. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Real synchronicity.
Synchronised, yes. Yeah, very fantastic.
Certainly, what Leslie has just described here is obviously wanting to go for a promotion, or perhaps maybe being in that position where you've been promoted because of your fantastic technical skill set. You've then been promoted into a role where you're actually managing people. And I think this was just picking up on what Steve had said around why New Forest District Council felt that this particular apprenticeship programme would be best use of quite a lot of their levy, because they had quite a lot of accidental managers. And what I mean by this accidental managers, it's a phrase, have a read on CMI's site about it. There's a lot of information around the accidental manager. And this accidental manager, of course, equates for a lot of that loss in productivity within organisations up and down the country, because you've got people who have been promoted into a position of management because they are great at doing what they do technically, and of course all of a sudden they're having to deal with
completely
people,
different job, isn't
and
it?
you know, deal with wider stakeholder management, deal with disciplinaries, deal with performance management and so forth. So what this course does is exposes everyone to that wider knowledge base and gives an opportunity to really refine and enhance those skills and behaviours. And I think this is why it has actually been quite popular. I have got some stats here for you, just in terms of the growth that there has been in order to address these accidental managers. So in England alone, what we did see in 2015-16, approximately 9% of all new starts on all levels of apprenticeships were actually management apprenticeships. This has actually grown by 15% in 2016 and 17. But of course, where we've seen the larger growth is by 21% in 2017-18. And this was reported in FE Week just last month. And I think if we look at really the numbers, the provisional numbers for 2017-18, if we look at Operations Departmental Manager, which is the course we're discussing here, 2016-17 there was 813 starts. 2017-18, 7,756 starts.
So just in 1 year?
Just in 1 year. And the Chartered Manager degree programme, where New Forest District Council have 2 of their staff on programme here with us, 540 starts in 2016-17, 2017-18, 2,259 starts. And if we look then at the level 7, which is the Senior Leaders Master's Degree Apprenticeship, that only was fully approved at the back end of last year. So in this year alone there has been 550 starts, and just 2 weeks ago at this university we actually had 22 actually start on that programme, and it is tipped to be probably one of the more popular ones because it's essentially an MBA that can be used with the apprenticeship levy. So what it allows organisations to do that perhaps had stripped out a lot of maybe lines of middle to senior management at the in the last recession, a lot of those organisations are perhaps now looking at their talent pipelines, and of course we've got the ageing population as an issue as well within our workforce. So they're really seeing how they can build that more strategic and senior management capability into their organisations. And of course this is where you've got chartered manager, senior leader, which of course you can push your people onto. And of course Leslie has got the opportunity now, she's on this trajectory of learning. She could come back in and she could do the fast track chartered manager top up, as it were, and get her full chartered manager award out of that. And if she really feels she's still got an appetite, she could move on then to the level 7 senior leader programme and have obviously an MBA, a CMI level 7 diploma in strategic management and leadership against her name as well. So
why would you say no?
This is it.
Exactly,
I like learning, but at the moment that's a bit high for me.
Give it another year. You'll be back.
These are the fantastic fantastic opportunities that are actually there for organisations. And I think again for us as the training provider, it's really an extra special relationship for us, because we do get that opportunity to work really closely with the employers. So it's important that the apprentice is monitored, that they're actually on track and they're making progress, because that's a benchmark that we're actually measured against in terms of our success as being a good training provider. What this means is that we're just not delivering a programme in isolation, which of course sometimes education providers can be criticised for. So it's regular progress reviews, meetings with the apprentice actually in their workplace and then also with their employer, and being able to debrief with the employer on how the overall progression for a cohort, because we have got 9 in total from New Forest District Council actually on this level 5 programme.
That's great.
So it means when we're in the position to be doing that debrief with obviously the Deputy Chief Exec or the HR manager, you're looking at that sort of added value en masse really in terms of what's happening within the organisation.
It has the potential to make a huge impact on something like the council, to have that many members of staff.
I think one of the other big benefits is because we've got say 8 or 9 people who are doing this course. We've got some on the level 6 as well. Is that I think of the 9 on this one, they are all from different services who wouldn't necessarily sort of engage with each other at work. So even that linkage of bringing those people together, those other services, and thinking about, well, how do you do something and how do we do it? So that's been a real added benefit as well. And I think probably Leslie's found that. And getting to know other people in the organisation who you don't typically deal with.
There must be a nice lot of cross-pollination going on between
so there's a lot of that. We've got people from leisure, from IT, from the operational side on the course, business development team. So that's been a real sort of added benefit as well of bringing that in. And the overall thing of, as Gillian was referring to, sort of promotion within and then getting people to move up through the management chain. We've been through a lot of restructuring over the last 2 or 3 years, as most authorities have, and this, bringing people back to speed, training them as managers, will then help to form those new structures and bring those other teams on. So I think all of that's added, an added benefit.
Just a small investment there can change the entire organisation for the better, potentially.
It can. I think what is key for us, and which I'm promoting internally to HR and then my other senior managers, is that actually we don't want this to be a one-off. So as long as we've still got the levy and the funding and the council's able to commit that time, for us to get another group in. Whether it will be as many as 9, I don't know, because you have to sort of balance that with the impact on the council. But
Yeah.
to sort of almost carry on this programme, it may be every second year, starting another group off. And
Sounds like a good plan.
I think that's what we really need to try and consider.
I should add, if you do have any questions for our panel, then we have a chat box and operators are waiting to take your chat. We'll pass your questions on to the panel, or you can email instructional.design@solent.ac.uk. But for now, it's just still questions from me. Do we have we have questions? This is very exciting. Thank you very much. Okay. This is a nice one. So Steve, what would you say to other employers, other line managers who were not sure maybe if they should get involved in sending their staff on apprenticeships?
Well, yeah, from the experience I've had so far, and I think what we've seen within the council is yes. The course, from what I'm hearing from Leslie, the course is really good. The units are relevant, and they'll span lots of organisations, because there's units to do stakeholder engagement, learning and development, marketing, project management, change management. So there's a lot of relevance, across lots of different organisations. So as long as you can commit the time, that investment, financially and in time with those staff will pay back. So I would say yes, definitely it is worthwhile doing. Yeah, and the course here as well, I think from Leslie's feeding back is working, and it is helping, as Leslie said, in the workplace. So well worth doing.
Sounds like it. What's it been like for you to meet other apprentices on the course from other organisations? Do you share ideas or changed your outlook?
Yes, we do. We have the biggest cohort is New Forest people, but as Steve was saying, I didn't know most of them before, so it was almost like brand new people I met.
Yeah.
But we set up a Facebook group very quickly after we started, and that is used quite a bit, where people ask questions about doing assignments or essays and that, and we all get on very well. I was quite surprised how quickly we seem to gel.
That's really nice.
And I don't know whether it's because we wanted to come on this course, all of us. Nobody was told to come on the course, so everybody, without exception, wanted to do the course. So we're all there to do as best we can. So we'll just pick everybody else's brains where possible. And it's really nice. There's sort of like no competition or anything. It's just sort of like really good comradeship between us. And it's really
must really help to have that, to know it's not just you, there's other people in the same boat, you can all help each other.
Yes. Yeah. And hopefully we'll all sort of like get through it at the end, and I think I might have made 1 or 2 new friends on the way.
Excellent. That's always a nice bonus.
Yeah.
That's really good. What else do we have? Some challenges, Gillian. What are the challenges of supporting these particular learners, would you say?
Okay, so I think probably the challenges sit around the fact that obviously is a new provision, and I think we have to be very aware as a training provider the fact that it is new, and delivering higher degree apprenticeships within a university setting is actually different to delivering your standard provision of degree programmes. And those differences arise from what I've highlighted already around the fact that there's 3 in a bed, as we talk about. It's this tripartite arrangement. So the employer is a central stakeholder. We're servicing the employer's needs as much as we're servicing the apprentice needs. I would argue probably what has been the most refreshing and satisfying element of rolling out the apprenticeship programmes is just the level of engagement that we have from the apprentices. Engagement is high, attendance is high, attainment is very high, and of course we can try and reap in that from, of course, the high quality of learning and teaching, you might argue, would play a key role in that. But what we have is, formative feedback as compulsory, and of course we have 100% delivery against that. Everyone is wanting to submit drafts of their work so that they can do their very best. And of course, what we have had from that, this group is setting a very high benchmark for anyone that follows.
I'm not the best performing, but I've got 2 B1s and the rest have been in the A's over the last year.
And you're not the best.
And I'm not the best, no.
That is good.
Yeah.
That is high attainment.
I think when the first year of this foundation degree went to boards, the average pass mark was 76.5%. That is a very high pass mark compared to what we would have on our standard provision. And I think it's where it's professional people who are in a workplace, so they embrace that same mentality, commitment, work ethic to their study that they do with obviously their daily work. So the knock-on effect for us as academics delivering in these programs has been really positive in the sense that it actually has increased staff satisfaction, because what I've had is staff coming back in and saying to me, "Oh my goodness, Gillian, those apprentices, they don't have put you on spot, or you know, they're following up on emails asking more questions about this and that, and they're saying, can you even review my work before the formative feedback date?" And this is very different behaviours to our traditional full-time student body at a university. So what we're having is staff actually being put on their toes, and I'm saying this is actually something that's really positive.
It's good. It's
we
good
have
to be
staff,
stretched.
It's
isn't
good
it?
to be stretched. We have staff who have been given a new lease of life. They're going off. They're wanting to obviously prepare material that they know will be at the level and pitched with enough real world aspects to it. We have a good opportunity to obviously bring in elements of research informed teaching. Obviously, as a university, we're very keen to showcase that. And of course that is then being supplemented by, of course, what the students are then bringing forward in terms of sharing their own experiences, their own experience of research with what they're doing within their workplace and so forth. So I would argue the whole learning and teaching strategy around higher degree apprenticeships is very enriched. And it's a continual cycle of improvement, really, because you've got this constant feeding in of actually what's happening on the ground within organisations. So you've got a nice double loop learning going on there, where the staff are all getting upskilled as well.
Yeah, really.
Where
nice,
they're then feeding this
unexpected
learning
benefit.
into the traditional university teaching. An apprenticeship on my programme said this is happening within their organisation and so forth. And where we've already had excellent links with industry, it's further cementing those links, because Steve doesn't know it yet, but we could be wheeling him into one of our traditional degree programme classes to actually talk about his job role. And it's been lovely for us to actually learn more about a public authority. How a council works, across, and we've had no end of interesting examples. New Forest District Council, they're obviously part of the national park set up as well within the country, how they work across a very diverse range of stakeholders. And of course in the classroom as well, we've also got members of staff from Salisbury Medical Practice. We've also got staff members from an engineering, grey material engineering on the Isle of Wight, which is obviously a fast growing SME. So we've got really good input from a family owned small business, and embedding the learning from that. And we've also got a member of staff from Solent University on the programme as well.
Oh, really?
So yes, it's excellent to be able to have this melting pot of organisations represented, and that really enriches the learning.
Yeah, I can imagine. Let's see. I think we've got time for a few more. Were there any more coming in on the chat? No more in the chat, so it's just me. I suppose let's finish off with something nice and positive. Just to summarise, each of you, what would you say personally has been the most rewarding aspect of being involved in the apprenticeship programme?
Well, I'll go first then. I think from my point of view, it's having somebody in the team who's, as Leslie says, not just learning about the technical stuff, which he's done before, but is learning more about corporate vision and aims, and so how that will work, how the sort sort of corporate policy works within the council and what drives everything else. So to get that understanding, I think the other real positive, as I said earlier, is because we've got a number of people on the course, it's getting that greater engagement across the whole of the authority. We work across a few different sites as well, so we've got people from those different sites. So getting that overall engagement of these teams and people coming together of how things could work is a real benefit.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest reward?
I think the learning, that not just the direct learning from the course, but the learning that I'm learning around it almost. So I feel quite happy. I feel pleased when I've put something in, and I'm really happy when I get good marks back. It's made me more confident in work. It's definitely done that. So with members of my team, I feel more confident if I'm explaining something to them or trying to get them to do something, because I've got the right buzzwords, I suppose, almost to use and explain why.
You sound like a manager now. You
Yes.
sound like a leader.
And it's just, I suppose I just feel more confident as well. So before, it's almost like if I was to see a senior manager, I'd go, I'd walk away again, because you don't want them asking you questions. But now I'm quite happy, and I feel like I am able to put over that I am somebody that should be at New Forest District Council, and I am worth training.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That's great. Makes me quite How about you,
I
Julian?
think I would say three things, and just, because it is this tripartite relationship, just picking up on what Leslie has said, and you said that warm feeling in your heart, that is the feeling I get continually when I work with higher degree apprenticeships, and the significant growth that I've seen in the personal confidence of all of the apprentices on the programme has really been significant. And I think I have said to your Deputy Chief Executive on many occasions as to how I've actually became quite endeared to the group of people, where I've got to know them as individuals, because we do delve quite deeply in terms of personal development and so forth. So we've got to know these people really quite quickly, and in terms of building them up to be successful and capable managers of the future, you do need to go deep to be able to go high. And it's on a constant basis. I'll have someone from the group come and say to me, "Oh, Gillian, it was really great. You see that assignment that we done? Well, I'm implementing this now in what I'm doing," or I'm always being peppered with lovely examples of how the learning in the classroom and on this apprenticeship programme is really benefiting what they do within their daily work. And it's just that personal growth in people to help them be the best that they can be, regardless of what might be happening outside of their organisation and in the future. The benefits of it are really, really great. I think because there's such a solid focus not only on the knowledge but skills and behaviours as well, which is a key element within higher degree apprenticeships. Focusing on that personal development and growth is something, and obviously progression is very, very key. I think the second one is then actually working with the employers. This is where the university gets the opportunity to almost be the HR consultant to the organisation, because we have to go through quite a rigorous onboarding process. So when they decide they want to get people onto the programme, we actually have to do an interviewing process where the potential candidate is then benchmarked in terms of their existing skill set against the knowledge areas of the apprenticeship programme. So we're obviously doing a very quick skills audit in terms of, well, where are they now? What is the job role that they're doing? Will the job role they're doing help them deliver against the evidence they have to collect against the apprenticeship standard? That is key. Not just anyone can come on these programmes. And of course you're looking at, well, what is the projected growth you're looking for within that skill set? So I think because it is so sad, because you're collecting that data at the outset. So and then you're doing these progress reviews along the way, and you're dialing back into the employer. It's not delayed gratification. You're getting all of this feedback instantly along the way, and it's so important that the relationship with the employer is of course managed and moved forward with to ensure that we're meeting their needs as a training provider. And you'd mentioned before our Ofsted inspection, and we were delighted. Obviously this is the first time that we've had this provision inspected, so from a first time inspection we were delighted to get a good Ofsted rating. Great. And of course a very rigorous process where of course employers were interviewed, surveys were carried out, and 100% of all the employers we work with recommended us as a training provider. So that's a great
it's a really great start, isn't it? Yeah,
for us as well. And I think then third and lastly, us as a university, it's obviously a new income stream for us, and of course as we're faced with a lot of external challenges, it's very important for us as a business that we do look at additional income streams. So this is something that's very solid. Apprenticeships certainly are not going away. There is additional investment going on. The Skills Minister, Anne Milton, is very vocal on how this agenda must be pushed forward. And certainly even just meeting with the skills manager for Southampton City Council this morning, again very focused on building that skills. It's all about building the skills, building the skills in the city and in the region, so the businesses can grow and jobs can be created. And very much for us here as a university, our graduates don't go off and disappear elsewhere, that they stay in the region. So it's all of that investment in the region to build up our productivity. And that's really satisfying for us as a university to be in that place where we're playing a key part in growing the economy with local organisations, helping develop people, but also for us as a university, looking at our learning and teaching strategy, looking at what we do as a university. I quite often think of apprenticeships in the analogy of the wolves that were restored into Yellowstone National Park. If you haven't seen it, Google it, it's great. And this is where, by the wolves being reintroduced, they help redefine the actual park and the shape of the river and everything. You could say the deer were the traditional students, okay? But what I'm finding it's doing here within the university, particularly with the outcomes that we're getting around learning and teaching and initiatives around student attainment and so forth, this is something that we can feed back into the rest of our provision here at the university. And I say the benefits around staff engagement, staff motivation, but also then sharing, the cross-pollination. Sharing the learning, the contacts. Again, in our Ofsted inspection, we were very highly commended for the strong contacts that the university has within the wider community, and it's our place as a university to be helping support that wider economic growth and development.
Absolutely.
To help make things how they should be within the country.
If we get a chance to lead on that as well, then so much the better.
Yes, absolutely. And certainly from a learning and teaching point of view, again, I've got myself and the colleague Claire Hughes, we're both on the research track, getting into all the academic learning and teaching, work-based learning journals on that. We're co-authoring a chapter within the real world learning book here that Solent University is involved with. We're working closely with Sheffield Hallam University and looking at starting to build some research around how learning and teaching can be enhanced to enhance the quality of higher degree apprenticeships, and that's something that we're really excited about moving forward with in the future and really putting Solent University on the map as a preferred provider for higher degree apprenticeships.
Sounds well deserved as well. Brilliant. Well, I think that is all we have time for, but it's been fantastic. I'd like to thank Gillian, Steve and Leslie. I know I'm certainly much more educated than when we started this conversation, so thank you so much for your time, and look forward to hearing more about how Solent is doing in terms of apprenticeships over the coming months and years. Our next live cast will be sometime towards the end of January, and hopefully, if I can persuade the right people, it will be on digital capabilities and how staff and students can work together. I've just persuaded the right person, so that's good. So I look forward to seeing you then. And in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. Thank you very much.